Folks at home, welcome to Rue TV tonight. I can't believe it is February already, February the 1st. I mean, technically, I guess, since it is tradition, this is technically the Groundhog Day special. Tomorrow's Groundhog Day. You might as well, what the hell, celebrate this as the Groundhog Day special. We're already a month into the year. This is not unlike any other show in previous, always a special show. Always bringing you someone unique, someone different, someone you haven't seen before, someone you're going to discover tonight on the show. And I was thinking about this before. We've had comedians, wrestlers, actors, actresses, a magician, a puppeteer, a psychic. This is the first time we've ever had a writer on the show. And
Oh, no shit.
hot damn, this is the first time. Folks at home, it is my honor to introduce you to the man, Robert Dean. Robert, how are you, man?
I'm good. Despite, I'm dealing with a polar fucking vortex.
Yeah, you're in so you're in Austin right now. So you're kind of getting the shitstorm of the literal shitstorm right now, right? I think it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, Texas doesn't have the infrastructure for anything like this. Like last week, I like since Christmas, I think I've worn a coat once.
Oh
And
wow. Yeah.
we're used to like a hoodie at best. And then when these things pop up and they've been happening more and more over the years,
Yeah.
you kind of like you get used to it and you're like, what is going on? And I'm used to it because I grew up in Chicago, but
Right.
I haven't lived there in 15 years. I've been down here for 15 years. So like when this stuff happens, that the muscle memory comes back. But oh my God, like the whole city shut down. Like I literally was just telling you, I just bought $54 worth of Wendy's because nothing else is open. So like,
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I mean, everything else is pretty much, I have a couple buddies that live in Texas, and I think outside of Austin, but it's no. I've never. I mean, I don't know. You said you used to be from Chicago. Is Chicago getting hit with a crazy winter? Because here in Jersey, we haven't gotten anything. I mean, I live right outside of Philly, and we got a dusting this morning, and it's February, and that's it for the entire. That's way abnormal. I don't know what the hell's going on here, but
I don't know what I don't know what Chicago's doing. Chicago just gets that. You're just used to it. It's
mhm.
not a thing. You know what I mean? Like even if
Yeah,
the weather sucks in Chicago, you're just like, oh well, that was just what happened, and you move on from it. Like if it's like perverse, then you'll hear about it, like polar vortex or some shit like that. But generally, it's no big
yeah,
deal. But like down here in Texas, you just get used to like it being like tomorrow. It's gonna go back into like the almost like this weekend. It'll be 75.
yeah.
So these like cold snaps like
That's crazy. Yeah,
really fuck the state up because we just don't have the infrastructure for it. In like the East Coast and the Midwest, like there's an infrastructure to these things versus like this will happen for like 72 hours and then that's it for the year. Like this won't happen again. And then it may not happen for a couple years. So you just kind of you just deal with it, unfortunately.
yeah. What made you move out of Chicago?
So I left Chicago in 2007,
Okay.
2007, 2008, something like that. And I moved to New Orleans and I was just miserable in Chicago. It's not, I love my hometown. I'm proud to be from there.
Yeah.
But in 2003, when I got my journalism degree, it was one of those things where I really wanted to be a writer, but like we didn't have the internet like we had now. I'm from the South Side, dude. Like
Yeah.
everybody in my family is like bricklayers and carpenters and
Right.
like they're
Right.
all trades dudes and all my friends are trades dudes and like if they're not that, like two others own a tattoo shops. So like
Yeah.
I'm a one of one in terms of my social circle.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there were fucking other writers in Chicago. I didn't know even where to look.
Yeah.
And so I kept going. I was unhappy in Chicago, and then I kept going to New Orleans a lot, and I kept like visiting, and we kept going like every 6 months, and I was like, I got laid off. I got fired from a job. I was working at the Chicago Board of Trade. My first gig out of college was writing the news for this Rockford affiliate, an NBC affiliate,
Local Philly. Yeah.
and yeah, it was out in Rockford, like an hour and a half outside of Chicago, and I was
Okay.
commuting. I was lying to him saying that I was going to move, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this ain't the way, dog. This place sucks.
Yeah, right.
And so I lasted there for a couple of months because I hated it. And then I ended up getting the job at the Board of Trade. And like this was like in the time when like people were like in the pits fucking throwing paper at each other and it was nuts. And like
What?
people were like throwing money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, a lot of your inspiration comes from those days of going that, you know, you come from a, you know, punk rock scene background. I believe you told me, right? So
Yeah. And so
yeah, so
it was one of those things is like I was stoked to like be back working in the city, but like I wasn't doing what I wanted to do.
right,
And
right, right.
so my like I just wanted to be a writer. I didn't want to do anything. And like moving to New Orleans, I got fired. I was on unemployment. I had nothing to lose. I had no kids at the time. I had like
Yeah.
nothing to lose. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go because like Charles Bukowski, Tennessee Williams, William Faulkner, like Joan Didion had gone through there for like a brief second.
Yeah.
All the beats were there. And
Hmm.
like William Burroughs and Jack Kerouac, they'd all spent some time in New Orleans. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that too. And I was like, I'm going to make my mistakes. I'm going to make my name in New Orleans. And then I was there for almost 6 years.
Wow.
And then I met my ex-wife, who ironically is here now,
Yeah.
warming up because her house has no power. And
Hey.
we were together for 10 years. And she's from Austin. And when she got pregnant, she was like,
Yeah.
you know, we had talked. I was ready to leave New Orleans, and we were both like, all right, well, Austin's the natural move. And I've been here this October. It'll be 10 years.
Yeah. So that and just nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm still, you know, same boat. I'm still friends with my ex. You know, it does because you break up doesn't mean you hate each other. You still, you know, still still can be friends. It's possible. That's funny. Last guest I had, we had a similar talk about her ex, who was also from Chicago, uh, but or was from Chicago. It still is from Chicago. But Robert, before we go any further, there's people out there. You sent me this the back. You're kind of like Cliff Notes version of some of the stuff you did, and I want to read. I want to read it. I've already read it clearly, but I want to read it for the folks at home who might be who are interested, because it's a really interesting background of you, um, which I believe is the back cover, or no, well, I know you sent me the back cover to the book we're going to be talking about in just a second. But first of all, let me talk about Robert Dean. It says he is a journalist, an enlightened. Oh, I guess I am too. I'm an enlightened dumbass. I would call myself I would call myself the most enlightened dumbass in all the Delaware Valley. So we've got that in common. His work has been featured in places like the Mike Eater, Fatherly Yahoo, Austin American-Statesman, Consequence of Sound. Is that Ozzy or Ozzy? Ozzy.
Ozzy.
Ozzy. The Austin Chronicle, USA Today, to name a few. He's appeared on CNN and NPR. He also served as features writer for Hussy Magazine. I saw a little bit of that. That was interesting. Maybe we'll get into some Hussy Magazine in a bit. Hussy Magazine, Culture Clash, and Pepper Magazine. He's editor-in-chief at Big Laugh Comedy, which I right before the show, I kind of looked into that on Facebook. And very, very interesting, very much up my alley. We'll talk a little bit about that too. Texas's premier, it is Texas's premier comedy production company. And of course, as we just stated, lives in Austin and loves the shit out of ice cream and koalas. So that is the Cliff Notes version of Robert Dean. I think I pretty much summed it up there.
That's pretty much it.
Most importantly, the main reason the main reason is because you're an awesome human being, Robert. But first and foremost, you got something coming out. Matter of fact, I think the first copies just got shipped to you. Was it today or yesterday?
Today I got them.
First copies of Existential Thirst Trap, which is, first of all, I love that title for this collection of essays by Robert. I don't know. Did you design the cover, or do you have somebody who does that for you? Somebody else?
No, I had a whole team of pros that put this book together.
Yeah.
Like it was professionally. Matthew Rivera, who's down in Melbourne, Australia, did it. He's a genius. He's a wonderful artist.
Mm-hmm.
I highly suggest if you're into like minimalist art or just ridiculous, like it almost feels like Frank Zappa meets Pulp Fiction. His art,
right?
He's
if you can
a genius.
We'll post a link in the description, but if you guys can see that on my phone right now, that is a sick cover. I really digging that. Um, and that is, like I said, it's coming out in May, I believe. Is there a date in May? Do you know?
Yeah, May 8th. It's coming out, and it like today, I legitimately just got the first paper copies today. And so
Okay.
I gave one, I don't even have one. I gave one to my ex-wife, and I
Yeah.
gave one to, because I mean, she's in it a lot, so she deserves to be one of the first. I gave one to my best friend who I live with. Her neighbor got one, and then the other three, one's getting mailed to Brian Holtzman out in California. Jughead from the Screeching Weasels getting one.
Oh yeah. Oh wow,
And
that's cool.
yeah, and I can't. And my Aunt Kay, who's 82, who got me into reading.
Yeah.
That's the first six that are going out, and I got five more coming next week, and then after that, I'm ordering like 250 copies to ship like everywhere.
That's awesome. It's got to be a great feeling when you see that physical copy that gets sent to you. You're the end game of a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I had a book out was 2015, so
Mhm.
it's a lot to. It felt good to see it, but it was like this book is such a labor of love. It's the first. I fucking hate this Gen Z terminology in most things, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for the first time, I felt seen, and I fucking want to die even saying that. But like,
yeah,
I quit writing fiction like in 2015, and I
yeah,
haven't written any fiction since because I'd never felt like every time I wrote fiction, I was fairly successful doing it. I sold a bunch of short stories and had two books published and things like that. And I was in a bunch of collections,
yeah,
but I always felt like I was wearing somebody else's shoes
yeah. It didn't
because I was
feel didn't,
still,
didn't feel authentic. It just felt, yeah,
yeah. And I was still always doing journalism work while I was doing it. But then something in me was just like, start doing essays from my life point of view. And then on top of that, like do my journalism work at the same time. And that like congruent world of like some stuff I'm like the central character and some stuff I'm not, but that felt like me. And so that book was like the like birth of that. And I was really stoked that like I got to do it and the
yeah.
opportunity to put out and that I got to release it.
Well, you gave me a little brief, synopsis of it, and it really does sound rad and something that I would be interested in. I know I got a lot of readers at home. I got a brother Justin who is a hardcore reader. Would love the shit out of this book. Tell us a little instead of me reading it. I want you to tell me a little bit about this book. The inspiration and what exactly are what is at the heart of it, and so just tell us what you want about it. So
It's a bunch of essays essentially just like it's a bunch of essays basically that like touches on like when I moved to New Orleans. I moved to New Orleans with $300 on my shit in my car,
wow,
and like
yeah,
I didn't have a job. I knew one person.
yeah,
I knew like two, and I was like I just wanted to live here. So the
yeah,
book opens up with a couple like gnarly New Orleans drinking stories, and that kind of like sets the pace that like I'm a piece of shit, and so you get like what kind of guy I am. Like I said, I'm a good time Charlie.
yeah,
You got some Jameson and some time. Let's get weird. And so it starts with that, but it also dives into like I went through a divorce. I was with my ex for 10 years. I talk about it.
yeah,
I've been a practicing Buddhist for 20. Food is in there. Travel is in there. Music is a huge thing. Music is like a central heartbeat to the whole project. And
yeah,
so it kind of like culture, food, and music is like my what I write about. And so it's I fuck up a lot in life, and I have fucked up a lot in life, but I own my mistakes, and I'm willing to write about what went right and what went wrong. And this is an completely bearing everything on there of like what it felt like to break up with somebody that you loved and have two kids with, but also at the same time, it's like how the Ramones made you feel and how the Ramones give
yeah,
you this like central clock or like what does like I have a thing in there. It's like why a playlist will never be a mixtape. Like a
yeah,
mixtape was a
yeah,
special thing.
yeah.
A
It was.
playlist is not that.
Hmm.
Like if
Yeah,
you and I meet in high school and we kick it and like I want you to know who I am as a person, the
yeah,
tape I'm going to give you to impress you to be my friend is different than the tape I'm going to make for a girl that I'm interested in.
yeah.
And
Right.
so that was a language,
Exactly.
a handshake between us
Hmm.
that we're showing each other like, oh shit, you like punk rock, I like punk rock too, and we may not know each other's bands.
Hmm.
But like if I open up my thing with like, Clash's London Calling, and then it kind of goes in that like realm, you're like, oh, this dude is into more old stuff, which is cool. And you may not know that. And then that kind of stuff too, because like I grew up in punk and I'm a hardcore kid. And
Yeah.
so you know, like all those things, that ethos is all spread out throughout that book. And it's really like a love letter to experience, and to be lucky enough to have the opportunities that I have had to like go and tell these stories. And so I'm just really stoked on that it's out and people can read it. And they've been really, really kind to me so far.
Yeah, I mean, and the real, I mean, clearly I haven't read it yet, but the realness of it and the tone and the theme, I think it's going to resonate with people. You know, it's
I hope
when
so.
you, yeah, I know so. And when you're speaking from the heart, you know, and in your experiences, and like you just said with music, I mean, from my experience, I mean, ever since I was 13 years old, I grew up on punk and hardcore, and it really is maybe to some people you don't understand the emotional connection that people like us have to it. To some people, it's just loud music. Okay, you might get into it, but you don't have that kind of emotional attachment to it. Clearly, you had an emotional attachment to it too, and it's comparatively speaking, similar emotions to things we go through in life, like relationships and ups and downs and highs, lows, depression. Who are some of the, just off the top of your head, who are some of the bands? I'm curious, since you said you grew up on it. Who are some of the bands that you grew up with in Chicago that kind of inspired or shaped you as a person?
Oh man, there's so many. Trying to think, like Nirvana is always at the core of many
Yeah.
things
There's always
because
that, yeah, there's always that gateway to, everything. That was the first, 'cause I think we're about the
because
same age, I think. So that was the,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm 41,
Ah,
and
so cheers. So much.
yeah, I remember when they came. I was, this is an aside, but I was
Yeah.
out at our local metal bar, Lost Well, and this kid that I know, he's got some interesting hot takes,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, I think Turnstile is our Nirvana, and I go, what? Are you fucking kidding me? I was like, no, bro, you're not even close. And then I just started laughing. He goes, what? They bridge a lot of people together. People like them. They're huge. I go, you don't understand. Nirvana killed an entire genre overnight. I was like, that was like a lightning bolt that changed the world, dude. I was like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like two bands in music, three. You got Elvis, the Beatles, and Nirvana, dog. Like, and then like I gathered a
Yeah.
couple like old dudes, and they were like, they just started laughing. Like, you don't even get what happened. And they're like, you can't compare what it was like for us to hear them. But like, like I had really cool parents, dude. Like my parents raised us on like Black Sabbath and Elmore James and Johnny Cash and stuff like that. So like,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, my
Yeah.
parents are the shit. They're like, they were awesome. My dad saw G.G. Allen,
Oh, wow.
and so I grew up in that kind of thing with cool parents, and so I got into skateboarding really young when I was like probably 10. So like right around that time, I got it. Like I was getting into like Metallica, and I got into the Misfits, who I'm still obsessed with,
Yeah.
and like Misfits, Metallica, and Nirvana, and like grunge and punk. It was all kind of the same time,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I remember the song was it was Face to Face.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
What's the now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of the Face to Face tune. But I'd heard Face to Face in a skate tape, and I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "What is the like thing?" Now I'm looking up on my phone like what that Face to Face song is. It's gonna drive me insane. And but I was like, "What is that music?" And so like
Yeah.
from that
Yeah.
moment,
Just
I saw
hooked.
like these I saw dudes with like, oh, Disconnected, of course,
Yeah.
and
No, whatever.
so
That was a face-to-face song. One of them. They're all
yeah,
good. They're all
it's
good.
yeah, no, it's yeah, Disconnected was the one, and
Oh,
like I
okay.
was,
Yeah.
and I saw skate tapes, and I saw these like dudes with tattoos and like wearing Dickies pants and fucking like Ben Sherman t-shirts, and like the Beastie Boys were right then, and
Yeah.
that like did it. And so like I got into the Beastie Boys, and I was in Social Distortion, the Misfits,
Right.
Nirvana, and then I was into like I got into the Jesus Lizard and the Melvins, and then when I was like probably 16, then it was like Earth Crisis, Snapcase,
Oh, yeah.
Strife,
Sure.
Dead Guy,
Yeah.
uh
I just
all that
yeah,
stuff.
last week I had this, I pulled this CD out because my guest last week is a big Earth Crisis fan. This is a you'll know this. This is a California takeover. Earth Crisis. Yeah,
Oh,
it's the same band you just damn Earth Crisis, Snapcase, Strife. Those are my three hardcore bands that I really
so like
was into.
a funny story about that is like we that came out, and like we were super into that, and like that was like a good opening door to like those bands and like to hardcore. And
Yeah.
then pre-pandemic, like right 2 weeks before they shut the country down, I actually flew out to LA to see them do that live again.
Oh, really? Yeah, because
So
they
I
were
was
they're
there.
touring again
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, I never saw. I
Yeah. So I was at the first show. They did it at the Telegram Ballroom in LA, and I flew
yeah,
out there to see them do it, and it was dope. And Strife just absolutely just mangled people. But yeah, we were listening to that. We were
yeah,
listening to metal like Fear Factory and Machine Head and a lot of Pantera
yeah.
and that first Slipknot record. And then, like I said, lots and lots of Social Distortion, lots of who else? The Ramones, the Clash, the
Of
Misfits,
course, yeah.
Husker Du. Like it was this like rock and roll. Like we got into like when we were like I'm trying to think of what years was that like when At the Drive-In's Relationship of Command came out, Glassjaw, Refused, The
Okay,
Shape of Punk to Come. We were
early
listening to
2000.
all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, because we were like 18, 19 years old. And
Yep.
so we had the classics of metal, punk, and hardcore. And then these bands like Refuse come out, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And
Yeah.
so then we got into Cursive and Alkaline Trio. And it was just this, we never looked back from there. It was everything was on the table. And now it was like I had friends that looked like punk, and then we got into industrial because it's Chicago.
Yeah.
So we were, listening to Nitzareb and Nine Inch Nails and, early Manson and going to see Ogre and Skinny Puppy and going to like, we would go to like punk rock shows and go to the goth bar and like dance to like Depeche Mode and New Order and Joy Division, which I love all that shit.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Joy Division #1. You so what are some of the venues? I mean, out there, I guess the Metro is one of them in Chicago, right?
Yeah. The Metro was the big one, but then we had the Fireside Bowl. Fireside was like our
Fireside. Okay, okay, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah,
Fireside was our CBGBs.
yeah.
And if you were a punk rock hardcore kid from the from late 80s to mid 2000s, that was our church, man. It
That was
was
a
like a
spot.
dilapidated bowling alley, but like you would see these bands who now are like, I saw Coheed and Cambria there. I saw My
Oh
Chemical
man,
Romance there because you just go to shows and like
yeah,
they would just, you didn't know who the fuck was playing, but like you knew that you could go to a rad show, or if you were gonna like, they double book, so you'd go see your hardcore show and the next band that would come on, and you're like, oh, the punk show starts now, and then
yeah.
like these dudes with swoopy haircuts would be playing, and you're like, what the fuck was this? I ain't saying like I stuck around. Like I remember seeing Coheed and being like, this ain't for me because I don't like Rush. So I was like, I don't give a shit. But they played, and I think that place at fire hazard capacity could hold like 350 people. But to
Yeah,
us, it was like playing the fucking, Madison Square Garden. If you were a punk rock kid and you got to play fucking Fireside, it was like, holy shit, we got to play Fireside.
yeah. No, it's like it's like New York CB. It's like like you just said, your CBGBs out there. Which, by the way, I took a trip out to about 5 years ago. It's now a clothing store. Ugh.
Oh, it's a John Varvatos.
John Ravinsky. They actually, to their credit, though, I guess they realize that they're going to have some tourists, and they preserved a little bit of like it's hard to explain, but a little bit of that aesthetic they preserved. But for the most part, it's like just depressing that it's not there anymore. No.
Right, you took like a hallowed hall of music that should be a cultural icon, and you sell
Yeah.
fucking pants there.
Well, not only that, because when I went there, I'm like, oh shit, they have like maybe for the shit of it, I'm gonna buy a t-shirt. Yeah, they're the store that sells the $80 t-shirts. I'm not gonna not gonna buy an $80 t-shirt or $140 pair of pants. It's not
No.
CV. No, hell no. But I don't know.
Yeah,
That's one
New
of my
York
big
dropped.
regrets. I never was at CBGB's during the heyday.
Yeah, New York dropped the ball on letting that not become a preserved landmark. I'm glad now people are coming to that kind of place where like the
Yeah.
Broken Spoke here in Austin was just named a Texas landmark, and I think more cultural institutions need that designation because
Mhm.
when we start gentrifying these places to whatever the fuck amalgamation that they become,
Yeah.
we lose those things in these institutions of like, if you can't have a place for the creative people to do the creative thing, what's the point of living there? Because then everybody
Yeah.
just becomes Cleveland.
Yeah, really. It really does. It loses all character, and if there really is no point then. So when you go to before we get into more stuff, I always want to ask people my age this because I still go to shows too. I think you still go to shows too. What 41-year-old Robert Dean, 41-year-old Rue. I still go to shows. Do you do the hang by the bar, hang by the back, or do you get in the thick of it just like the old days, or do you mix it up depending on the band? I'm
I
curious.
mix it up depending on the band. Like
Yeah, yeah,
if it's a
okay,
band
okay.
that's, dude, I'm 6'4", covered in tattoos, and I
Yeah,
like to get
yeah,
wild. Like
yeah.
if like the other night it was my homie's birthday and we went and saw I Hate God,
Oh yeah.
and after about 6 or 7 sodas and some shots, they started to
Yeah.
play Jackass and the Will of God, and I was like, I had to pit boss for a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
it'll bring you back. I mean, it can be it's a happy place, no matter how old you are. It's just
there is nowhere there are a few places in the world I feel more comfortable
mhm.
than at like a punk rock or hardcore show than a tiny venue with people
Isn't
losing their
that
fucking minds.
isn't that fucking crazy? Because there's people outside of the scene who see that I go to shows and see that, and even to this day, they don't get it. They just see like they look at it as the exact opposite. They say, "Holy shit, that looks dangerous as hell." But in reality, what are we feeling inside? Like, I feel like this is like family. This is like the most comfortable place. I feel more uncomfortable walking in Walmart than I.
Right, 100%.
Yeah,
Like you know that if some shit goes down, collectively you
right.
guys are going to fight as one.
Yeah,
Like if somebody
yeah,
was going to walk into that place with a machine
yeah,
gun, God forbid that ever happens,
yeah.
these people are got your, but like we're
Hmm.
going to figure this shit out together. Like that scene, that community, that mindset of like you never, like if you outgrow punk, that's a you problem. And I
Hmm.
don't mean that as like, oh well, people change, whatever. I
Yeah,
get that. I'm not saying you need a purple mohawk and that shit. But
yeah,
if
right,
you
right.
start like to lose the values that music gives us, that's
Hmm.
on you, because
Yeah,
you can go to a show. You and I could, we've never met. I guarantee you, we could go fucking right now and say, hey man, dope band's playing, fucking dude. It's gonna be Gorilla Biscuits. It's gonna be Sick of It All, and Cro-Mags is gonna do it. John Joseph's gonna sing, and they're gonna do a tribute to Bad Brains. You and me
yeah,
are gonna be so stoked. We're gonna meet there. Every other dude like that, we've never all perfect strangers sharing in this joy, and that if somebody falls, if we're losing our fucking minds,
yeah.
somebody's going to pick them up. And then either later at the bar or the Denny's across the street, the
Hmm.
place is going to be buzzing with those same people who we've just given this like one particular identity that is so important to us that we can find the same common ground for whatever we want to talk about for the rest of the night, or potentially to become friends for life.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a room with like-minded people who have been, a lot of them through the same shit and connect the same way to the same music. So I think that's really where a lot of people can't understand that because if you've never experienced it, no explanation it will do. But man, it's changed my life, and I know it has yours, and it means a lot. And it's meant a lot to, like you said, your book that's coming out in May, and a lot of those experiences throughout the years you talk about in the essays, right? In the book
Yeah, I
itself.
mean, it's
Yeah,
all, this music is a central thread through the whole thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's essential thread through life itself. So how did you know? Because you know how I found out. How do you know? One of my I think we have a mutual friend. One of my past guests, Michael Casey. How do you know that guy?
Yeah, he's the magician.
Yeah, of course.
Um, he's
Punk rock
so
DIY punk rock magician, as Chris
yeah,
Farron
dude.
has donned him. Yeah, he's a good guy, my friend.
Yeah, he's a very good guy. I met him. He came to Austin because we have a mutual friend, Lynette, who I write about in the book, because I she's a very good friend of mine, but she lives like an hour and a half south. So like
Okay.
for us to plan to see each other's, like we have to have a plan. We can't just kind of de facto hang out because she lives an hour and a half. And
Right, right, right.
so Michael at the time was dating Lydia Lovelace
Hmm.
and the country singer. So like we went, she happened to be doing a show and he happened to be in town doing magic. And so we all kicked it, and he and I got on like a house fire. And so we were talking about, like punk rock stuff and girl
Yeah.
problems and life itself. And, we were all just kind of talking about different stuff. And this was literally like, I think 2 days I had just got back from LA, and then we
Yeah.
were all talking about COVID stuff. And then, you know, years later, here we are. But yeah, that dude rules.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so shout out to you, Casey Magic, because
Yeah.
it's Thank you for the heads up, my boy. A couple other things I want to talk about, non-book related. Like I said at the top, I was kind of perusing through the Big Laugh Comedy. Tell us exactly what do you do again for Big Laugh Comedy? And because this, I do a lot of interviews on here, but I do a lot of random comedy. I've done stand up myself, open mics over the years in Philly. Tell us what Big Laugh Comedy is and what exactly you do for it.
I'm editor in chief for Big Laugh Comedy. We are a comedy production company that
Okay.
is here in Austin, Texas, but
Okay.
we do stuff throughout the state of Texas. We try to be we try to be this an advocate. Like we book shows all over the state, but mainly in Austin. We're working on something in Fort Worth for like long term too.
Yeah.
But we try to be we book shows. We try to be an advocate for comedians because there's this like sweet spot of you're not quite an open micer. You're a couple of years in, and you're a feature
Hmm.
for like some guys. You're not like the monoliths yet. We have worked with the really big names. We've worked with a lot of them,
Yeah.
but there's that like not quite big enough, but like big enough that you can sell out multiple shows for like
Hmm.
real comedy fans.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like our sweet spot. Like we work with guys like Derek Poston, his best friend Hassan,
Hmm.
um, Derek's girlfriend Sam Lopez. There's William Montgomery. Mason Smith is another good one here in town.
Right.
It's like Genevieve is a very good one. There's Leonardo Gianni, Christina Mariani. These are all comics that like I'm rattling off now, but in a year from now, people are like, "Holy fuck, those guys!" Like, they blew
Yeah.
up because there's a lot of comics that moved to Austin when Rogan did, and
Yeah.
the ecosystem here is its own. We're not New York, we're not LA, we're very much an Austin scene. There's these like characters that are coming out of here that are uniquely Texan. There's
Yeah.
guys like Dean Stanfield, Ali Voidovich, and this dude Uncle Laser. They're all like very Texas comedians that are like
Yeah.
they're not Ron White, but they're like the
I was
grandchildren of Ron White.
Yeah, I was just saying that. I was like this stigma of, the Southern Texas comedian, those that generation is kind of busting through. They're kind of breaking that, and not being no disrespect to guys like Ron White, but like they're kind of creating their own voice instead of the was it the blue collar comedy tour, that whole
Yeah,
deal.
there's so many good comedians here now. There's like this dude Monfort Davis, who's another good one. There's a lot of really good Connor Nutt. Like there's just a
Yeah.
lot of really good comedy that's happening right now in town, and like you're gonna see these people breaking through. And like I said, a lot of them, like David Lucas, Derek. Derek did a whole fucking like months with Andrew Schultz,
Oh, wow.
and like and David Lucas is a Kill Tony regular, and we've got the Kill Tony guys here, and we've got Rogan here, we've got Segura here, and Duncan Trussell lives here now, and Matt Rife just moved here, and there's like a bunch of dudes
Yeah.
that moved to town, and it's awesome. Christina P's here too, obviously with Segura, and so like they're all a part of this, and it's this cool ecosystem, and we just try to be advocates for people
Yeah.
to if you want to be a comedian and you can like put people in a room, we will facilitate that for you, and
Hmm.
we'll help you get your content out there. We'll help you. Are you trying to do a show? Do you have an idea for a show? Let's figure it out. Can we make it happen? Do you have this like Allison? She's got like this litty titty comedy thing, and then she's got this other one like
Yeah.
it's almost like a gong show thing. But they're
Right.
working. Like
Yeah.
we have all these like comedy fans that are now rabid in the city where we had music was the central nervous system. Now we have comedy, which is very important to people now.
Right.
So it's an interesting, cool, Wild West
That's a yeah.
kind of.
It's crazy that you're describing that scene there. I mean, and one of the things that I heard you say was, and justifiably so, because of how huge he is right now. But you said a lot of people moved to Austin because of Rogan, because
Mhm.
Rogan was there just to be close. Because in the old days, or I don't know, whatever you consider the old days, it was like, okay, well, you want to be a comic, you got two choices. You move close to New York, you live in North Jersey or New City, or you want to move to the West, and Comedy Store, LA. But there's people that are now gravitating to different areas like Austin. That's interesting to me because
Yeah, like
I didn't know. Yeah.
we're battling it out to be our own place now. Like I said, I just
Yeah.
rattled off out of the 10 biggest comedians in the business, four of them live here now.
Yeah.
That
That's
says
crazy.
something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. I'd say of the two biggest comedians, one lives here, and that's Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he's opening a club. It's going to be called the Mothership. And then in downtown Austin, you're going to have the Mothership, Sunset Strip, and Vulcan right there. And then around the block is Creek in the Cave. And then just about a couple of blocks over is they're calling it the Garden, which is another
Yeah.
one. And then you got East Austin Comedy Club. These are all East
Yeah.
Austin and the Garden are all within on the east side of town, not right there, but
Hmm.
Vulcan, Sunset Strip, Mothership, and Creek in the Cave are literally, and the Velveeta rooms right there too. You have 5 comedy spots within a 2 block radius of each other.
Does he say a timeline of when the mothership's going to be opening?
It should be the end of the month. It'll be open for
Oh, that's
South by.
unbelievable. All he needs to do is do a sporadic pop in every now and then, and that place is going to
Oh,
be that's the place is going to be lit. All he's got to do is a couple pop ins, and he'll be all right. He'll be nuts. People are.
Joe does 2 nights a week every week. Joe's
Oh,
always
he
working.
oh oh he's going to actually work out of that. He's not
Oh
just
yeah,
going to
like
he's not just going to run it, or and yeah, okay,
he has been very very open that this is a comedians club, and
yeah,
so they're gonna run it like the Comedy Store where he's like, I
wow,
got money. He's like, I got fuck you money. This
yeah,
as long as this place breaks even, we're good.
that's
And he put
interesting.
a lot
Wow,
of money into it, and it's a place for comedians to do their thing where it's not driven by money, it's driven by comedy.
yeah,
And Joe does Tuesday Wednesdays every week at Vulcan. He's always, I've seen Joe Rogan do comedy, I'm not exaggerating, at least 17 times. And it's it's just his new special is going to be good. Like, and I'm not some like big, huge like Rogan apologist, and like I know friends that like obsessed with him, but like his new hour that he just did is great. I will 100% say any comedy fan will be like, this is his best work, bar none.
who broadcasts his specials now? Does he do
Netflix.
Netflix? Okay, I was gonna say because I know Louis CK does his own thing through his website. I didn't know where he drops his specials now. Now he doesn't. He's
Yeah, a lot of people are going YouTube now.
yeah, selling it on you, doing a sell it on YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah, either sell it on YouTube or just let it monetize with the ads.
right.
Because like guys like Ari Shafir, Matt Rife, Stavros Hyelkis, and Andrew Schultz all did YouTube, and they made their money. They made millions. I don't know if Matt made millions, but he got 2 million views on it, so he clearly made money.
Yeah,
And so they're all they that's kind of what the model's becoming. Some people are still doing HBO, some people are still doing Netflix, but like internal things with like what's PC, what's woke, and all this other shit. Comedians don't want to put up with it, so they're saying "fuck yourself," and they're just going to put it on. That's what happened with Andrew Schultz. He was like, "I'm not cutting jokes
yeah,
because you guys want to appease a certain crowd." He bought his fucking special back and gambled on himself and won.
yeah. And then that's what the internet. Say what you will about it. It gives you the creative freedom to do that if you have a following like that. I bring up Louis CK, who is was exiled for a while, and I believe he's got a special in the works. I think I want to say
It's coming out. Either it just came out or it comes out in like a week.
yeah, yeah. I was a fan of his. Where I was just watching Horace and Pete. If you've ever seen that show he produced by himself,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on Hulu right now. But ridiculous. I'm a big Steve Buscemi fan, so he had me as Steve Buscemi. So another thing we want to talk about today, Robert, I mentioned it quarter way through. Explain to me what you do for Hussy Magazine briefly. What about Hussy Magazine?
Hussy is a magazine that it's going through some changes right now.
Yeah,
It was like is a throwback to like 1950s, 60s men's magazines with like,
old
you
school.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
old school, like dirty jokes, you know, chicks in lingerie and like with hot rods and stuff like that. But like it felt like those dirty old men magazines. That's what it was meant to be.
yeah.
And I was writing features for them. Like I was interviewing comedians. I interviewed David Lucas. I interviewed Brian Holtzman. I did a piece on the future of sex with with Molly Vivian, who's a porn star that goes under Millie Marks, and then Matt Slayer from the And Now We Drink podcast, who has worked off camera in porn for like 20 years. And so it was very like sex forward, but like tongue in cheek, and like they let me be a journalist and do whatever I wanted to do, and it was great. But like they got into some trouble with printers because they were like, well, we can't print this because it's not, people, like I said, get fucking weird now about what they're printing. And it's like, they're like, we tell dirty jokes and have like half naked chicks. Like, this is just what this is. And they
Yeah.
couldn't find a printer that would print it after it kept getting more risque. And then somebody wouldn't put the money up to do it. And they were like, we sell magazines. What the fuck, man?
Yeah.
And so they're doing a rebrand that's going to be much more like social media driven, because
Right.
once they got to there, then Instagram basically killed their original account, which had like 500,000 or something like that. And then
Yeah.
they 86'd it. And now they have something called Hussy Army, which is, they're building it. I mean, Johnny Von Gnarly is the name of the dude that runs it. And he's one taco at a time. He's going to get it back. And it's a cool concept. And they weren't capitalizing on anybody. They were just doing fun, old school,
Yeah.
shaking dice guys telling shitty jokes, having a martini kind of shit. And, that's a niche to who wants it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think they have many magazines like that at all anymore.
No.
If you really want to break it down, there aren't many print magazines in general anymore that are targeted toward that demographic. So that's really interesting. Old school. I love anything throwback. What's old is new again, and I hope I hope all that stuff does well. So. What exactly, Maui? Give me a second, Maui. My dog's been staring at me for the past 10 minutes. I'm not sure. She may have to poo. She may have to poo. You have to poo, Maui? You have to hold it. All right, we'll be right back. So the book itself, when it actually drops in May, are you doing any how exactly, other than going on shows like this and promoting it, how are you getting it out there? How can people find it? And where can they pick it up at? Now, I'm really out of touch. I used to go to bookstores, but shit, there are so many that closed around here. So is it possible to get this, or is it going to be all online, print on demand? I don't know how it works in today's
It's
print world.
So basically, the plan for right now is I am going to get copies. There will be copies you can buy in Austin,
Yeah.
Chicago, New Orleans. It'll be in bookstores in those cities for
Oh,
sure.
awesome. Okay, cool.
And then outside of that, it's going to be like a process to get it in bookstores, because
Yeah.
essentially to get something in a bookstore, especially like an independent bookstore,
Yeah. Yeah.
you got to get it to like the manager. They got to read it. And they go, oh, we'll stock this, because every book is worth shelf space to them. So, like, I'll get one in Galveston too, down in like, there's a lot of mentions in Galveston in the book. So I'll get one in Galveston as well, in their one bookstore.
Yeah.
It's going to be online. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can pre-order it at Barnes and Noble now. You can pre-order the Kindle now at Amazon. I'm just waiting for the Amazon link to populate, because it hasn't yet.
Yeah.
And it's been like almost 2 weeks since it was uploaded to Amazon.
Yeah.
So once then, people can pre-order it. But you can pre-order it on, like I said, Barnes and Noble, and it'll be on Amazon, and that's going to be how it is. But then in terms of promoting it, I'm going to do everything in my power to. I leverage these relationships with a lot of comedians and people that I always stood by and did right by them, and I'm hoping that they like the book. If you don't like it, that's fine. I can't make people like things, but if people like it and they want to say a nice piece about it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And so if somebody can give me a shout out, if I can continue to do more podcasts, and then to get reviews in magazines and things like that, that's all I can do, is just continually build the momentum of it and hope that people react. I like to think the name Existential Thirst Trap, coupled with like that cover, I wanted something like Jane Doe. I wanted something that like people would look at it and go, I need to know what this is. At least pick it up and give it a cursory glance.
Right.
So I think with the cover and the title, I think I at least have a fighting chance against the competition if I get a chance to get it in front of people, and people are like, that dude doesn't suck. So hopefully that's what happens.
Think so too. And better do some book signings, and it's onward and upward. This book is like I said, I just know the gist of it, and it sounds awesome as shit. So for anybody who is interested, when the time comes, you think we say it's dropping in May, it's only February now, but it'll be here in a minute. The way time moves nowadays.
Yeah, just if you're listening
Yeah.
or watching, just follow me on Instagram. That's usually Instagram. I'm only on Instagram and Facebook.
What
I
is it?
quit
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah. I will put all that shit in the description. But for people watching, what is your Instagram handle? I think it was
It's
you see.
literally Robert Dean.
Okay, gotcha. And we'll put all
It's
that in
at literally Robert Dean.
at literally Robert Dean. Got that. And then the link to all that stuff will be in the description if anybody is interested in checking it out. You better be interested. If you're not interested, then you should unsubscribe from Root TV. So I want everybody watching this at home to order a damn book. So
Yeah, please do. I'm broke.
yeah. I feel the pain. Feel that pain. But
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on the show, brother. This has been awesome. I hope you know, I hope it does well. But even if, it the word well is subjective. The fact that you created something like this and are doing what you want in life, which is clearly what we're talking about today, you've already succeeded in my eyes. So I'm proud of you for putting it out. I'm proud of you for putting out something so real and authentic. And I can't, wait to have a look at it.
Yeah, I hope it resonates with people because it's very real, it's very honest, and I like talk about a lot of stuff that a lot of people aren't. Like I had a friend that committed suicide. Like
Oh
that I
man.
talk about that. I talk
Yeah.
about the death of Anthony Bourdain in there. Like Anthony Bourdain is this weird like ghost that follows me around professionally that like I get comparisons to him, which to me and Bukowski, which is an honor. It's
Yeah.
thank you so much to have those. But like when he died, I wrote about it, and it was a very personal thing because when he started, Bourdain and Rollins were always my guys because
Yeah.
to me they were punk rock fuck ups that
Yeah.
had no path and they've made their own path. And so they were always my guiding light. It wasn't where people like he gets to travel the world and have cheeseburgers with Nelson Mandela or something.
Yeah.
That
I
part was
yeah,
sorry, that part was
with
cool,
Bourdain. Mhm.
but it was always that. So
With Bourdain, he was I kind of was casually, dipping into his TV shows. I wasn't too familiar. After he passed away, I went back. My brother Justin was a huge Anthony Bourdain fan. He's like, bro, this guy was, I mean, I don't know how other way to tell you, but he was a punk. And you gotta listen, you gotta watch his stuff, and he did what he wanted, he did it his way. And it's amazing. His thought process, his mindset in life. And speaking of food, because that's what Bourdain was. Chicago or Austin, who's got the best eats?
that's actually a really hard question because Chicago has iconic food like hot dogs. We have
Yeah,
beef sandwich. We have tavern style pizza, not deep dish. Deep dish is bullshit for tourists.
yeah.
Tavern
I thought
square
so.
cut.
Yeah,
That those things. A mother-in-law. We have world class cuisine that's been there for decades. I mean, like outside of New York, we're the oldest Italian immigrant community in the country, and so
wow, I
like
didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, we have Little Italy and all the same shit. And so we've got all that stuff and we've got these, Polish neighborhoods and Ukrainian neighborhoods and we have the largest urban population of Mexicans outside of Los Angeles. So it's like
Really?
yeah, so like Mexican culture is very much Chicago culture. And
Yeah,
so we have these amazing fried chicken places called Harold's Fried Chicken. We have this tapestry of people in Chicago that create these foods that are insane and it's world class. Chicago stands on its own. It doesn't have to prove itself to anybody. Austin, on the other hand, when it comes to food, is a place that is very new. It's very collaborative. It's very taking risks versus
yeah,
Chicago's a food town, but Chicago get a good steak and have a beer and you're rock solid. Here people are
yeah.
taking risks. We have food trucks, we have all these like ideas and people who want to do something different,
Right.
which is a great idea. Like we have ramen shops popping up, we have a lot of halal, we have the barbecue, and we have the Tex-Mex and things like that. But Austin is up and coming in the sense that it's always willing to expand and try to like outdo itself, where Chicago has nothing to prove.
Yeah. touristy. What is the what is that? Is it a pizza shop? Lou
Oh, Lou
Malinato.
Malnati's.
That's a touristy spot, I think, right?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, like
it's good,
I
but it's a touristy spot. I
if you ask somebody from Chicago, every single person that's
was gonna
watching
say
this
it.
that's Chicago affiliated,
Yeah,
that deep dish pizza is not our pizza. That's just
yeah,
tourist shit. Like you might get it once a month, not sorry, once a year. Like a
yeah,
cousin comes in from some other part of the country and they're like, I
hmm
want to try deep dish pizza. Or like you might be like, you know what? Let's get a deep dish tonight.
yeah,
But 99.9% of the time, if you're like, yo, I'm gonna get a pizza, what do you want on it? It's well done, tavern cut,
yeah,
thin crust squares. That
yeah.
is the
Hell yeah,
Chicago pizza.
yeah.
Anything else is bullshit.
That's I like I say, I'm from right outside of Philly, but Jersey Shore too, and that's thin crust pizza is where it's at. I mean, I don't hate thick crust deep dish, but if you put a gun to my head anytime, I will tell you that thin crust pizza is my jam, and that's my shit. So
I do have a question about
yeah,
the
yeah,
Philly Jersey thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I had heard that you have obviously the Philly cheesesteak. Everybody
Hmm.
knows it. It is what
Right,
it is. But
right.
I heard that the one that they do in Jersey on the Kaiser
Yeah.
it is almost better.
So here's the thing. They do make a lot of good cheese, lot of good mom and pops shops here, specifically one that I know that is owned by a friend in town actually. That makes a fantastic cheesesteak. But for some reason, I'm just partial to Philly. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a mindset. But I've always been a Tony Luke's fan, Pat's Geno's. I don't know that's always, and maybe it is something subconscious in the back of your head when I eat a cheesesteak there with fried onions and wit. I don't know if this is gross to you, but if I had a preference of cheese, I put you get a choice. It's Whiz, provolone, American. I always go with Whiz, cheese Whiz.
I
I
always
don't know.
go with Wiz. Last time I was in
Yeah,
Philly,
yeah,
I always get the with Wiz. And there's actually a very large contingent of the Austin service industry.
yeah,
Shout out to Chili's Phillies. Um, there's a lot of Philly people here. There's a
yeah.
whole crew of them,
Oh
and
wow.
they do like Philly pop-ups. They're all like losing their shit over the Eagles. Go Birds, is what
Yeah,
they say.
right. Yeah,
And like, yeah, go Birds. And like that's their thing. And so uh I'm very well acquainted with that. But like I said, I've got homies that like lived in South Philly, and
yeah.
there's a place that I really want to go to because we're talking about coming to Philly. To my
Hmm.
next follow-up book is going to be all travel essays.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
my homie Justin here, shout out Happy Hour.
Hmm.
He lived in South Philly and he's got a million, like he was in like the Mummers and all that shit.
Oh,
And
for sure. Yeah.
and they but there's this like supper club that's in South Philly that's like old school Italian that you got to be a member to get in, and like it's like super, like it's been in the neighborhood for decades, and this like
Yeah.
dude took it over and he's like, it's still cool and you got to know a member to have dinner and stuff, but we
Yeah.
really want to do that. And but Philly is definitely on the map to go because there's a certain kind of person, like a Jersey, New York, Philly, Chicago, Detroit, like we
Hmm.
all get each other in this like
Yeah.
unspoken brotherhood of like, oh, go fuck yourself kind of way that like
East
we
Coast stuff.
only get
Yeah. Yeah.
we only get of like you got to be from that like blue collar driven environment. And
Yeah.
so I want to go with Philly with some of these clowns because they're fun as fuck here, but I want to go with them there because we have some
Yeah.
times.
Well, there's a spot. Yeah. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because I mentioned a couple spots, but I'm a big South Street guy. That painting behind me is South Street. And one of my favorite, I would say the favorite cheesesteak spot, Jim's on South Street. Sadly, last year burnt down. They are now rebuilding and they bought out the property, Eyes Gallery right next to it. It's going to be even bigger and better. And yeah, so Jim's cheesesteak. Hopefully, by the time you make it out to Philly, Jim's is open because that is the shit. My personal favorite is Jim's Steaks on South Street. So
Yeah, if we're gonna talk Philly, got to give shout out to the Menzingers holding it down.
yeah, Menzo's I've seen many a time. I just told Natalie, my last guest, my only I don't did I tell Natalie or is that Matt? No, I told Michael that I think. Yeah, I told Michael that. my only regret was not seeing Menzo's did a show right after they dropped on the Impossible Past. I was in Asbury Park for a Bouncing Souls show, and there was a post show at a bowling alley called Lanes in Asbury Park, and it was Menzo's. It was $10. It was late as shit. I had work the next day. Me and my brother had an option. I was like, oh, fuck, I really want to go, but I'm tired. Let's just go home. Let's just go. I'm tired of shit. And what it was a Menzinger set, $10, and they did all Operation Ivy cover songs. And that's my one regret in life. My regret in life was not going to that. So
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I would regret that too.
Yeah, but anyway, Robert, we're coming up on the hour, so I just want to say it was so great having you on the show tonight and bullshitting with you, talking about good times, punk rock, food, books, everything, everybody, all the information about Robert's new book is going to be in the description, so I want you to check that out. Follow him on social media because I'm sure he's going to be giving a lot of updates in the weeks and weeks leading up to the release in May. So make sure you do all that. And anything else you want to say to the millions and millions at home watching around the world right now?
Yes, I always like to say the world is a fucked up, shitty place. The one thing that you can do is do something kind for someone tomorrow.
I can second that. I definitely can attest to that. And I definitely agree. Robert, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. I hope to come back anytime if you have anything else to promote down the line, and love to have you back, brother.
Yeah, if we come to Philly this summer, we'll have to get drunk together.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm always there, usually every weekend. Hopefully I try to be anyway. So we'll get drunk, go to a show, and have a cheesesteak. That sounds like a perfect night to me.
Yes, it does.
All right, man. Stay safe, all right?
Thanks.
All right. Cheers, guys.